Hello and welcome to another Napoleonic Black Powder battle, and today I have two pals coming around. My good friend George, who absolutely destroyed me last time, and my friend Oscar, who is going to assist me on the French side. A slightly different scenario today. We have a small French brigade up on this hill. So that's being occupied by the skirmishers and two regiments of line infantry, a battery of cannons, and obviously we now have Mr. Napoleon himself. Over on the other side, the British again have a very small brigade to start off with. So we have Halkett, another new commander on the table, a unit of 95th, a unit of Cameron Highlanders, and the Black Watch Regiment, half battery at the back, and Wellington now fulfilling his role as general rather than brigade commander like he was last time. So we've got two small units on the board. French over on this corner with the high ground this time, and a slight bit of fortification from the walls and protection from the trees. And then over on this corner we have the British, and each side is going to start with just this small brigade each, and then there's a much larger brigade coming that has to be ordered onto the table in subsequent turns. So I'll just show you what we've got coming on. The French have a enormous block of infantry coming on. The small brigade that's on already will also get a unit of line lancers, so they will join them on the table. And then the British have got two units of infantry, a full battery of cannons, more 95th rifles, and a unit of heavy cavalry. For this game, the objective is going to be take the hill. This hill is going to be worth 4 victory points. And obviously the French are starting slightly further up this time. Last time it was the British, and they have possession of the key objective of the day. And then over on this corner, a small storehouse is going to be a slightly smaller objective, so that's going to be worth 2 victory points. And the British are going to start with that in their possession. So when the British bring on their reinforcements, they're going to be able to deploy anywhere in this field over here. This is going to give a bit more of a diagonal approach to the battle. Similarly, over on the French side, they'll be able to deploy in between these fields over here. So there's going to be a fighting across the board as well as along it. Okay, that's British turn 1 and French turn 1 done. Just doing it as the single summary because not a great deal happened. The 95th Rifles have moved up into this field, and the brigade commander actually failed his other orders, so everyone else has stayed where they are, even after Wellington's reroll. And then over on the other side, the skirmishers staying where they are behind the wall in the cover of the woods. The 28th Line Regiment moved up and formed a line. The cannons tucked in behind them and unlimbered. And over on this side, who were they? The 13th, unlucky for some, the 13th Line Regiment moved up and formed a line. So helping defend that hill. And then this brigade is now complete now that the line lancers have joined them over on this back corner. So we're moving to British turn 2. Okay, that's the end of British turn 2. and the first smaller brigade has moved up slightly. Progress is slow, we've got a long way to go. But the main thing is that George has ordered on his large brigade. So we've got the Gordon Highlanders, the 1st Scots, Household Cavalry, a full battery of cannons, and another unit of 95th Rifles. And we've had our first shots at the battle from the cannons over towards the skirmishers on the hill, but with no effect. And the first unit of 95th Rifles are now hunkered down in the corner of this field. And I think that's it. So we'll move into French turn 2. Okay, that's the end of French turn 2, and we have a ton of infantry have arrived. So the large brigade has arrived, and we have a mass of infantry in the centre now. The small brigade didn't really do much. This who are they again? The 28th Line Regiment moved up, failed to form column, and then the cannon failed their order, so nothing else could move, unfortunately, because it meant these line lancers couldn't swing round to the right and charge the 95th. So we'll go into British turn 3. So that is the end of British turn 3, and I think George will admit he had quite a successful turn there. So everyone moved up, all his infantry in the centre moved up to the edge of that field. They've all put fire into the French, and there's disorder basically everywhere. So the light infantry were disordered, this 28th line in the middle were disordered, the skirmishers in the centre were disordered by the cannons, and this line regiment over here is disordered by fire from the 95th. So basically 4 units of disorder on the French side in 1 round of shooting, with some casualties. So that's the end of the British turn 3, and we'll move into French turn 3. Okay, so that's the end of the French turn 3, and there wasn't a massive amount that happened in terms of shooting, but we did have a lot of movement in the centre. We had 2 columns have charged into the Black Watch. Obviously one is actually doing the fighting, one is supporting. And then we had both regiments of All Guard move up behind them in line. So there's a really strong French centre here. Unfortunately though, we've got 2 units that are still disordered, so they basically couldn't move anywhere. So they're a bit stuck. That disorder will come off now though. Voltigeurs in the centre, again, they were disordered, so they couldn't really do much. The line lancers over here have flung round to the right, didn't get the roll to basically charge into the skirmishers though. The really frustrating thing for the French is the cannons so far. So the cannons haven't really had anything to shoot at yet, so they are just trying to get to the front to actually get a wee view through to the British. So that's it. We'll move into British turn 4, and all the French disorder can come off. Okay, so that's the end of British turn 4, and still carnage in the middle. Lots of hand-to-hand combat, but no one has broken yet. The French did lose the combat, but they passed their break test. The Cameron Highlanders moved up and put some shots into the light infantry over here, causing disorder. Over in the centre, not much really moved. There's a few failed orders, and I think the cannons are the main thing. The cannons swung round so they can fire at the line lancers over in that far right corner. Other than that, not much really moved. So we will go into French turn 4. Okay, that is the end of French turn 4, and it's all go now. Over on the far right flank, the Line Lancers charged the 95th. They actually managed to evade that contact, so no issues there. Over in the centre, the Old Guard have moved up and are piling fire into the Household Cavalry. This huge combat in the centre continues. Both sides are supported to the flank and the rear. However, as you can see, the Black Watch are now on 5 casualties, and this French unit are now on 4, so both are shaken. So it's going to be an interesting one next turn to see who breaks first. Over on the left flank here, the 2nd Regiment of Old Guard charged into the Cameron Highlanders, and both put 2 casualties on each other. So lots of casualties, lots of hand-to-hand. That's it. So we'll go into British turn 5. Right, that is the end of British turn 5, and lots happened. So over here, the Line Lancers have been pounded by cannon fire and the 95th. They are disordered. Over in the centre, the 1st Regiment of Old Guard were charged by the Household Cavalry. They did successfully form a square, and the cavalry bounced off, but then the Gordons piled in fire, causing disorder and a couple of casualties. So it's not looking good there for the French. This massive hole in the centre is where 2 French attack columns used to be. One of them was defeated in hand-to-hand by the Black Watch Regiment, who actually, yes, they're still on 5 casualties, so they're looking pretty ropey as well. One of them retired back to here. After they saw their pals flee, they just thought, screw that. They're now disordered, which leaves this 1 line infantry regiment in the centre on their own. Over on this side, things didn't go quite as well for the British. The Cameron Highlanders took 7 casualties in total from the Old Guard, so they've retired. They did well to hang on, to be honest. They had to get a 9 or above, so they hung on. They're now back down to 3. The Old Guards are coming after them. So that's it. So we will move into French turn 5. Okay, end of French turn 5. Lots happened. Lots of not good stuff for the French. So over here, lots of fire from the hill. The cannons have still done absolutely nothing. Managed to put casualties and disorder on the Household Cavalry, who actually had to take a break test, which they passed. So that's them. Actually, that's them back down to 3. Lifeguards couldn't move because they're disordered. Over in the centre, yeah, there used to be 4 regiments of infantry here, and there's now none. So the French basically charged into combat, did really well, put loads of casualties on the Black Watch, but then because the Black Watch have got so much support, the French infantry broke and left the field. So it's looking a bit ropey in the middle. Over on this side, the French brigade commander actually rallied the Old Guard down to 3, and then they put in fire on the Cameron Highlanders, who used to be over here. They took lots of casualties and failed their break test, so they've left the field as well, which is actually the first time George has lost any units in two battles, which is quite impressive. So the French are looking good on the left, and they're looking good on the right, and they're not looking like anything in the centre because there's no one there. Right, so we'll go into British turn 6. We might even play 7 turns here. Just we'll see where the battle is after the next turn. Grand, into British turn 6. Okay, end of British turn 6. I think we're going to do 7 turns just because it's getting quite exciting and we want to see where it goes. Over in the centre here, the Gordon Highlanders charged the Old Guard in square. That combat was a victory for the British, but the Old Guard stood their ground, so they're going to fight on to the next turn, even though they're shaken. Over in the centre, again, not much happened because there's no one here, but this unit of French line did take some fire and casualties. Over on this side, we had some absolutely superb rolls from Oscar. The Old Guard were originally rallied, so they weren't shaken, but they took fire from the cannons and from the Royal Scots, and they basically had to roll a 9 or above or they'd have broken. They also took enfilading fire from the 95th Rifles, and they still hung on. They're still shaken and they're disordered, but they're still there. They're still in the fight. So we'll go into French turn 6. So end of French turn 6. We've decided to go for 7 turns, so we're going to do 1 more turn each just because things are not quite decided yet. French Old Guard over here, they are shaken and stuck. Not much really happened. They did shoot over at the Royal Scots and put disorder on them though. In the centre, the attack column did charge the Black Watch, who have had huge numbers of casualties, but still hung on, still won that combat. The French did actually pass their break test, so they are still disordered, still shaken, but still fighting on. Over at this combat, the Old Guard still hung on. They rolled a double 6 on their break test, so they're going to stand their ground and keep fighting despite huge casualties. Over on this side, fire from the hill forced the household cavalry to retire and become disordered. And the French did manage to get their cannons up, but didn't manage to unlimber them, so they are still yet to contribute anything. Okay, so we're just about to go into the last British turn 7, and we've done a quick check on points. So George has 2 points for the storehouse, which hasn't been taken off of him yet, and he's destroyed 2 French units, which gives him 6 points. Plus, he has shaken the Old Guard over here, this unit in the centre, the Old Guard over here, and the Line Lancers over on the top corner there. So that gives him 10 points in total going into his last turn. The French have hung on to this hill, which is 4 points, and they've destroyed 1 unit of British, which gives them 6 points. Plus, they've shaken the Black Watch in the centre and the household cavalry at the back there, which gives them 8 points. So it's 10-8 to the British going into the last turn, but we'll see what happens. We'll see if anything can change. Right, so that is the end of French turn 7 and the end of the game. Once again, George has led the British to victory. It looks like a more devastating victory than it actually is points-wise. So there's lots of British units left on the board. There's not many French units left on the board. George is going to get 2 points for hanging on to the storehouse over here, which did look like it was in jeopardy at one point. And then he's destroyed 5 units of French infantry, which is going to give him a total of 12 points. None of the remaining French units are shaken. The French hung on to this hill and they destroyed 1 unit of British, which is going to give them 6 points, and they shook a further 3 units of British, so that gives them a 9-point total. So the British are going to win 12-9. Well done. Thrilled for them as ever. But no, that was a good battle. It was anyone's game until turn 5, maybe turn 6. The last turn really was pretty bad for the French. They lost a lot of units quite quickly. Grand. So until next time, we'll have to think up a new scenario where the French can't lose. Cheers.